Hi, this is Michael William Denny of ThunderShamanism.com, and today I want to talk to you about how to heal yourself from chronic tendinitis, tennis elbow, chronic pain in these areas. I'm going to teach you exactly how to heal yourself without drugs, without surgery, without crazy exercise routines, without crazy stretching routines, without, meditation. I'm a meditation teacher, and I'm here to tell you you don't have to use meditation to heal yourself of these things. And so, but in order to do that, we have to understand what tendinitis really is. Now, I'm going to be talking to you not from a shamanic perspective. This is not New Age theory. This is not, alternative medicine. This is real Western medicine-based understanding. And from this understanding, you can heal yourself from this without drugs, without surgery, and without all kinds of crazy exercise routines. But first we have to understand what tendinitis is. Now, let me just qualify. I suffered from debilitating tendinitis. I had tennis elbow, I had tendinitis in the wrist, I had tendinitis in the fingers, I had tendinitis in my neck, all kinds of places. I suffered also from back spasms, shooting pains down my legs, sciatica, all this other stuff. Now, here's what I was told. When it came to specifically tennis elbow and tendinitis, what I was told is that tendinitis was a result of micro tears in the tendons, where the tendons attach to the bone and the muscle, that there's these micro tears that are a result of, overuse or, sports injuries or something like that. Now that makes sense because that's exactly what it feels like, isn't it? It feels like that it's torn, and it's so painful when you try and use it. It feels like your tendons are about to just rip off the bone and they won't stay. It's a horrible feeling. And, I did things like a lot of sports, martial arts, all kinds of things. And, I used to play percussion. African percussion, big drums, congas, and things like that. So I was always, banging my hands on the drums, and that would cause stress right here. And I thought, oh, that's how I got tennis elbow. It was from playing drums and for overdoing it and all that kind of stuff. So it made sense. But I'm here to tell you that's all a bunch of nonsense. And I'm here to tell you that you don't have to live with it, that you can cure yourself from it. And the main thing that has to happen is you have to understand what tendinitis really is. So before I go any further, I'm going to turn you on to a book. This is a book called The MindBody Prescription by Dr. John E. Sarno. Now, what's important to see here is that it says MD, meaning that this isn't some New Age thing. He's not a chiropractor. He's not, some New Age guru who's saying, spirituality will heal you of everything. I'm a firm believer in that, but that's not what he's saying. He's going to explain to you in that book exactly what the medical causes for tennis elbow, tendinitis, and other forms of chronic pain, and how to heal yourself from it. So let me first tell you how it works. This is true whether we're talking about back pain, whether we're talking about tendinitis, whether we're talking about phantom pains that go through your body, sciatica, these kinds of things that we normally associate with sports injuries or stiff muscles or those kinds of things. It is something that the brain does. The brain is the cause of this. And that means it's psychosomatic. Not psychosomatic in the sense that you're imagining it. You're imagining something that's not real. No, it's very real. It's a condition that is in the tissues, the nerve tissues, but it's caused by the brain. And this is what happens. The mechanism is that the brain will selectively shut off blood flow to certain nerve tissues in the body. So I'm pointing here because, if you've got tendinitis, you understand. So it shuts off blood flow to nerve tissues in the hands and the wrist, and here in where we get tennis elbow. Tennis elbow down here, that's really painful. And so what ends up happening is that the nerve tissues get starved of oxygen, and then they start to go into, this state of crisis, and we feel it as intense pain. Now, the good news is there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing permanent. It's just the nerve tissues are screaming out for oxygen. They're in pain. So every time you use them, you know, they're swollen. There's inflammation, and that's a result of a lack of oxygen from a lack of blood flow. It's that simple. So the first thing you need to understand is that that's the mechanism. And this is, you know, one of the major things. And what Dr. Sarno does in his treatment is that he convinces his patients that that's the cause of it. And once you understand that, then basically that short circuits the brain, and the brain can no longer do this, and it stops doing it. And he's proven that this works. I've also proven it in my life that it works. But sometimes that's not enough. That intellectual knowledge sometimes is not enough to stop the tendinitis pain. Now, what Dr. Sarno will tell you is that it is a result of unconscious emotional rage. And now you may say, I'm not a rageful person. Well, I'm not talking about the kind of rage where you're throwing things and punching walls, although you might sometimes feel like that. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about an intolerable situation in your life. It could be work, it could be personal, it could be emotional. You know, you're just simply not satisfied in life, and so you feel trapped. That was my issue. I felt trapped. I felt trapped on a bunch of different levels, which I won't go into right now, and it was causing me such stress that in order to function, my brain decided that it would distract me, and this is what it's doing. Listen, we've learned how to survive all kinds of horrible things, you know, in our millions of years of evolution, and this is something the brain does. It's a survival technique. But it doesn't work because we don't live in those same kinds of situations we did, you know, thousands of years ago. We live in the modern society. So we're fighting against, you know, emotional issues in our life. We're not making enough money. We're not successful enough. We're not happy in our, you know, our relationships, you know, these kinds of things. And when this pressure builds up to a certain point, it becomes intolerable. And so the brain says, listen, he or she is not going to change. They need to be able to stay in this situation, so we've got to push those feelings down and keep them down. And the way that the brain does that is it distracts you by causing this physical pain. Now, from a shamanic perspective, I could go into what the symbolism of that is, but that's not the purpose of this video. So I just want to tell you, go ahead and get this book, The MindBody Prescription. Now, I'm going to take it one step further. John Sarno is saying that, you know, you take a look at, you acknowledge that you have this unconscious rage, and that if you're able to do that and understand what the mechanism of the brain is, you can short circuit it, and you can free yourself from pain, which I absolutely agree with. But I'm going to take it a step further, because what I had to do was I actually had to change my life. I was living in a situation that was intolerable for me, and, you know, long story short, my marriage fell apart, and I was free to do all the things that I wanted to do that I was being prevented from doing because of my life situation. And even though I was in horrific pain, I mean, I couldn't pick this up. This would have been too painful to do. And doctors were telling me, you can't do all the physical things you want to do. You're going to have to be on medication. And I said, nope, I'm going to do it anyway. And guess what? When I did the things that I wanted to do, when I changed my life, when I moved back to California, when I started doing all the things that I wanted to do and I refused to be in pain, guess what? All of the symptoms disappeared. So for me, it was more than just acknowledging that I was unhappy and miserable in my life, but that I actually had to change my life, and it wasn't easy. And I had to start doing the things that I always wanted to do, that I'd been preventing myself from doing. And that was what allowed me to get joy and satisfaction in my life, and all of my pain has disappeared. I'm free of all of those pain symptoms. So you can be too. Anyway, so go ahead and get the book. I recommend it. Listen, if you like the channel, go ahead and support the channel. You can also support it by subscribing and liking and telling your friends. So that's it for now, and I'll talk to you soon.